Very good at it.
Yeah. Okay. Do we have an agenda? All right. Hi, all. First of all, let's, do we do the Pledge of Allegiance? Okay. Is there a flag?
There's no flag.
No flag.
We've not been doing it.
All right.
Mark, let's,
Yeah.
let's
just
give
Put
that.
your
call
right
to
hand
order
over your
and
leftist
get
heart. So let's call roll call.
Rick White.
Honor B.V.A.C.
Mark Lips.
Sydney Giberson?
And not present,
Meg cannot make it tonight.
Meg Langford.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So we are here at the Big Valley Committee, and we are on Zoom. Is that correct, Thomas? Yes, sir. All right. And we have all these dignitaries here. Do we have an approval on the minutes? Anybody want to make a motion to approve or change?
I move to approve.
Okay, anybody want a second?
Second.
All right, thank you. That's Arnaud is first and Rick is second, if anybody's keeping notes. Yes.
Right here. They will be posted, by the way, now that they're approved.
Oh gosh, that's what I needed. Thank you. Jeez, I'm flying by the seat of my pants. Okay, so we've got the call to order. All right, this is where we do public comment, and any member of the public may speak on any agendized item for up to 5 minutes. And I know that I ran into some pushback on this before, but if there's something not on the agenda that you would like to speak to, we'll give you 1 minute that you would like us to look into, or you just would have a position or would like to say something. Okay? So, and if you want to speak, you need to go to the mic. Where is the mic? Right here. Right over there. Okay. So, anybody in the public, if the public want to make, talk about anything on the agenda or 1 minute not on the agenda? Margaret, will you turn the mic on?
Testing, testing. Hello, Big Valley. Margot Kambara. Wanted to let you know that Big Valley Groundwater Sustainability Plan, the draft of the 2024 annual report, is expected soon, probably in June. Big Valley Sustainability Plan 2027 periodic evaluation, work on that will start soon. I wanted to share with you information on a project in the Big Valley Basin. It's a manufacturing project near Lamson Field. Estimated water usage is 260,000 gallons per year. Water availability information is not provided. And I cite this as an example of having project information available at B.V.A.C meetings. One of the main reasons for establishing this august body was an interest in land use. So if we had information on these kinds of projects, we'd be better informed neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, also, yes, you did. Never mind. I was going to say, when you get up there, make sure you state your name and your social security number.
We know Margot.
Oh, okay. Okay, anybody else? There we go.
Yeah, hi all. I'm Nils Kasper, and I'm excited to be here specifically because I saw that Coal Creek is on the menu tonight. And I thought I could give a little bit of context on the issue as someone who is directly affected by it. So I live in the kind of Green Acres area in Kelseyville that's off of Clark Drive, and year after year, we have very extreme flooding. This year it started in November, and it has lasted until today. We're still very much flooded right now. And when I say flooded, I really mean flooded. We get like several feet of water on like dozens of acres, which, yeah, it doesn't make the land very usable unless you're into boating or water skiing, I guess. And what's more is it also affects the Clear Lake hitch. As many of you are familiar with it, it's an endangered species that only exists in this ecosystem. And year after year, we just get like thousands of them stranded on our property once the water finally evaporates in June or July. Yeah, and we have a website where we gather a lot of information. We have pictures if any of you are interested. We have a map with like all the issue points that we think or that we have worked on with the state as well to identify, and that's coalcreekflooding.com. Nice and easy to remember. Yeah, thanks again. I'm happy to be here and also can answer questions if you have any afterwards. And yeah, shout out to Jessica Paiske and Pawan Upadhyay for bringing this up in a public forum so that we can discuss it. Thanks.
It's a really good website, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, anybody else interested in making public comment? Thomas, do we have people on Zoom?
Unfortunately, there's nobody on Zoom right
Oh, okay.
What about YouTube? Can you see that?
now. I can't.
Okay.
Okay. So,
We got 11.
11 on YouTube.
Yes, sir.
Well, good evening, YouTube
So,
people.
is it possible to have them do they want to make public comment?
I mean, Shax and Dave, nobody's saying anything.
Okay. All right. Okay. So, nobody else? And we will close public comment. And next on the agenda is Supervisor Jessica Paiske to give us an update on the world.
Jessica, do you want to sit or you want to go up there?
Let's go.
We didn't strategize which updates we're giving. Okay, so, all right. So there was a big project in Middletown that was, we had a carbonizer on site on the special district site that was burning thousands of trees that were moved down or moved around from the areas where PG&E was doing a lot of vegetation management and the trees were dying. So that project has wrapped up, but there's biochar that's available. There's giant bags, 3 cubic yards that are available, and they're free. And people are using them for all kinds of things. Shannon Vineyards is getting them for soil amendments. So at some point, maybe they'll be used for filtration projects for the lake, but they're available as a resource to anybody that wants them. And just contact Clerk. Clerk is the one managing the project, and there's a lot there. At some point, they'll probably sell it, but right now it's free to everybody and anybody that wants it.
So you need to contact clerk before you can't just show up?
No, they have certain pickup days.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're big bags.
Okay.
Yeah, so, yeah, so keep that in mind. There was some concern last week on the Kelseyville sidewalk project, some concern on social media that project wasn't happening this summer, and it is. The reason it didn't happen last year as scheduled was because it was federal funding, and federal funding requires some extra environmental clearances through NEPA. This was a earmark or community project through Mike Thompson that we got funding for, and that connects a sidewalk, continuous sidewalk from Kelseyville Elementary to the high school. So we were all very disappointed that it got delayed last year, but it's back on track for this summer. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody is aware of that. A few weeks ago, I was in Sacramento for our CSAC legislative conference, and I am I'm the committee chair for the policy for agriculture, energy, and natural resources. And at our policy meeting, I had the chief deputy director of CAL FIRE. Her name is Annalee Burlew, and she came to present talking about all things wildfire. But one of the things that CAL FIRE does is some long-term modeling for this season. So that's looking out 3 to 4 months based on precipitation and projections on what the season's going to look like. So given that we had so much rain this winter and that April was so dry, and that sort of the long range modeling is that May is going to be dry, June is going to be dry and warmer than usual, fire season is anticipated to start earlier this year. So it's looking like for our elevation, by mid-July is when we could see early fire activity. So I want everyone to just think about that as we move into the month of May. Last week, we had our wildfire preparedness proclamation for the county. I know everyone is out doing their weed eating, and then it rains again like it did the other day, and then you have to do it again. But it's just really critical that you just maintain your vegetation. One of the things that we know is that defensible space saves homes. And I've been in many fires where I've seen the only home standing in the middle of everything else burned. They had defensible space. Zone 0 is something that the state's been working on for years. It's part of one of the governor's executive orders, and that is nothing combustible within the first 5 feet of your home. So that's plants, wood chips, wooden furniture, all of those things it's really important to make that clearance. So please try hard. Everyone needs to do it, not just for your home, but for your neighbors, for your community. Because when we look at a community, at the scale of a community, it's everyone's efforts together that really strengthen the resiliency in the community. So it's really, really important. So I wanted to pass that along from Chief Burlew that it is going to be an early and active fire season, likely. And then the week following that week in Sacramento, I got a last minute call to go and testify at the banking committee for the Senate. And this was an opportunity that came up because when I was back in like end of February, beginning of March for the National Association of Counties conference, I went a day early to go around Capitol Hill with some of my colleagues from other counties, and we were really pushing the banking committee to talk about insurance, because we are having an insurance crisis in California, but it's not just California, it's almost every other state. And it's not just wildfire, it's flooding, it's storms, it's hurricanes, it's all of these things that are, the changing climate is exacerbating the weather events, which are getting stronger and more often, and the insurance, as you all know, the insurance industry is trying to figure out what to do, but they're raising rates at rates that we really just can't keep up with. So this invitation came from Senator Warren with a conversation around the insurance crisis, but also disaster mitigation. And that is the nexus of the conversation and the federal investment that comes with that. So I share frequently here that we've gotten many millions, tens of millions of dollars in the county from both the state and federal government. But those federal investments in mitigation efforts, according to FEMA's data, saves $1 for every $7 to $13 down the road if there's a catastrophic event. And those mitigation programs are being cut right now with, they are definitely cut in the skinny budget that was released from the administration. This is the week that there's a lot of markups happening with the different committees. But these grant programs are critical, not just to our community here in California, but all across the country. So that really was the conversation of that nexus between mitigation work and what we can do ahead of any crisis and the insurance crisis. So that was my update on that. And the video is online if you want to see it. It was really an interesting experience. We had federal updates yesterday and state updates yesterday. So did you want to talk about that, Brad? Or do you want me to?
Go ahead. You're on a roll.
Okay. So we now have both federal and state lobbyists that are under contract with the county, which has been really incredible because we get weekly updates. We have people that are out there walking the halls and having these relationships and are monitoring everything that aligns with our government priorities, which we set every January. So yesterday we had an update from the federal government, mostly on the Health and Human Services side of what's going on with the budget. There are, it's a changing environment, so probably everything that I'm going to tell you could have changed since yesterday. But there are cuts to Medicaid that will affect the people that live here. We have about 54% of the people in Lake County are on those benefits. Deep cuts to SNAP, which again really affects a lot of the people that live here. There were some new updates that I heard today that it looks like the Secure Rural Schools has been reauthorized. That was something that we were pushing for because we have national forests in our county. We receive funding that go to the schools, and some of the money comes to the county, and we use it for the road infrastructure around schools. So that would have hurt us in a lot of different ways had that not been reauthorized. And it looks like the muni bond exemption too has been preserved, but we have a bond that's already been issued, but if that was something that we were going to do in the future, that would affect us. It affects a lot of jurisdictions that try to invest in infrastructure through bonds. So those are just a couple of the high level updates that I have, but again, there's so much changing that I kind of hesitate to get into too many details, but next month we'll probably have more for you.
Can we ask questions?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, questions.
Okay, so speak to us like a third grader. When I think about our citizens, what is impacting us in our pocketbooks? And one of those is insurance. So what is the positive, for instance, State Farm just announced a 17% increase in insurance today for those that are willing to get it. Now we know that there are checklists, and we know that those work in helping prevent your house from burning down. I've seen it when I've handed out relief. We've handed out relief checks to the Boyles Fire and all of that. Some people can't afford insurance, so they just don't get insurance, which is problematic too. And we did experience the lone house standing there because he made efforts. But there are other things too, like the vents, making it so embers can't get in through your vents. So there are some other things. But is there a takeaway on the insurance issue? Because it's really getting to be where people are just going to have to do without because they just can't afford it.
Yeah, and we're at that. We're there now.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we did I was in a working group with CSAC on the state side, is we worked on policy recommendations last year, gave them to the commissioner's office. There are some new policies in place. What we're really pushing for is that these mitigation efforts that people do get applied, and the people are rewarded and incentivized.
Okay, so there
to
will
do
be an
these things.
incentive, so what you're saying
There
is,
are a lot of bills right now around this, both
Mm-hmm.
at the state and federal government. There's bills around home hardening, incentivizing people to do it. Is it going to be a tax credit? Is it going to be a grant?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot going on. So we're tracking that. That's one of the things that our lobbyists are doing, and we're sending in support letters for all of those bills that align with these priorities that will give us some relief. It's tough, though.
yeah. Well, the good news is, like you said, it's everywhere. It's not just here. North Carolina, hurricanes, the tornadoes that have been all through the Midwest, just tearing up the Midwest more than normal. So they've got to see that there's an issue here that's federal.
Yeah, and it's bipartisan. It's everyone's issue. One of the other pieces, I'm on this task force with NACO, which is National Association of Counties, intergovernmental task force for reforming FEMA. And so there's 18 electeds, and I think maybe 7 or 8 other department heads around the country. And so we've been working together to also submit our recommendations to the White House. And I just got an update yesterday that a lot of those recommendations that we've been making, they've heard us. Because one of the things that happens when there's a declared disaster is FEMA has thresholds that you have to meet if you're going to get any resources from them. And because our population is low, our values are low, it's really difficult for us to meet those thresholds. When you look at California, you look at some of the really bigger areas, it's really easy for like 5% of population loss, 5.5% of population loss, or housing loss is what we've experienced in the last 10 years. What I told the Senate was imagine losing 20,000 homes in DC. That's what that looks like.
Yeah, it's per capita.
But it doesn't look like that here. So how do we have more support for rural communities when these things happen? So there's a lot going on, but I was really encouraged to see that a lot of the recommendations that we've been working on are being considered right now.
And then the other hand in our pocket that is affecting everybody is PG&E, utility rates. Highest in the country, right here in Lake County and any PG&E territory. So I know the last time we spoke, there was going to be a discussion on that, or looking at a microgrid proposal.
We had just had the conversation about approving the feasibility analysis with Sonoma Clean Power. And so they are off doing that. And for those of you that weren't here, Sonoma Clean Power is a nonprofit and not an investor-owned utility company that rents PG&E infrastructure and provides power at a lower rate. And so what we really want Lake County to be part of their portfolio. They want Lake County to be part of their portfolio. So right now they're working things out, is the best way to say that they're building the feasibility analysis. Then are going to come back to us in a couple months, probably a month or two, I would say. All of this needs to be cemented by the end of December. Everything has to be in contract by January 1st, and for us to be able to participate probably this time next year if everything went well.
Okay. Maybe we should talk offline. Are the supervisors pro solar and pro battery storage, all of those things? Renewable energy like that? I'm assuming you are if you're talking to Sonoma and all of that.
Yeah.
Because there are solar projects that I'm aware of that are in their 8th, 9th, 10th month because of permitting. That's just an FYI. And during those 8 or 9 months, especially if it takes place in the summer, people are spending thousands of dollars, hundreds of dollars, that because of the rising rates with PG&E and all of that. So it could help if we could somehow streamline that process and be a little more time
We could get
aware.
an answer from you from Director Turner on what that process looks like, and, you know, if there's issues surrounding it, we'd be happy to get back to you on that.
Okay. I was just saying, you got to be careful not to let perfect get in the way of good sometimes with these things. But, all right. Anybody else? Questions? Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
I will just comment, I work with public services, and we currently have 6 active solar installation projects for county infrastructure going right now. So.
Can you please come up to the mic
Sure.
and identify yourself?
My name is Joe Cooper, and I'm the Capital Projects Manager for Public Services. And just in comment is the board, Pro Solar, or even the county for that matter. Currently, we're installing, it'll probably be in total about 2 megawatts of solar infrastructure this summer. Some is in active construction, some is in design phase, but before the end of the year, we'll have significant increase in solar infrastructure for our county facilities.
Great. Do those permits just sail right through for you, Joe?
No, they don't sail right through. Everything has to be in order. And, you know, there are times where it is more difficult than other times, but typically those are maybe missing pieces or further details are warranted. You know, obviously, every situation is different. So no, they don't always
Sure.
go right through.
Okay. Thank you. That's good to hear. All right. Supervisor Rasmussen, you're
Yeah,
up.
thank you for the detailed report, Supervisor Pyska. I just have a couple more quick things that relate to requests to be on your future agendas. It was discussed at the last meeting about having some Brown Act training for the advisory council. It's been arranged so that our county council is available to be here at your June 11th meeting to do Brown Act training, so I would request that that could be on the agenda. Also, this week, we had another presentation from the Northern Rural Energy Network, which is an energy efficiency project that's being run through our area planning council. And what they do is they're working with several counties. They provide energy efficiency kits and evaluations for residents. So they're interested in outreaching to the councils and would like to be here and available for this community as well. So if you want to get that on a future agenda, we can get them connected with you.
That'd be great, absolutely, yeah.
So we'll get that, I'll get that information to you for the
Thank
for the
you.
next agenda. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. All right. Any other questions for either of these dignitaries? What else do we have?
You're at item 5.
We're done?
No, 5.
Oh, okay. So now, Water Resources is doing their,
No, you're skipping over item 5.
I'm skipping over what? 5. Oh. Oh, well, she was already there.
Just waiting.
All right. Supervisor Pyska regarding red tagging properties along Main Street.
Yeah, so there was a request to have an update on 4275 Main Street, which we did receive 2 complaints on for code violations. So code enforcement has opened a case. They put a red tag on the door, and they're waiting for a response right now. There's a window that is necessary to get a response from the owner, but the property is under a new ownership now. It just changed hands late March, and it's owned by a LLC out of California. So there's a little bit more time that needs to go into it. The next steps are getting to, we need to have an inspection. They need to figure out if they're going to have permission from the property owner, or if that's going to be a cooperative agreement, or if they need to get a warrant. And then once they can get in there and have the inspection and understand the extent of the violations, then they will have a better idea on how to proceed. Any questions on that?
Is that the proper, the standard procedure, whether it's a commercial or residential property?
Yes, and I can forward you the report from code enforcement manager, who included all of the codes that are a part of that, if that's what you want to see. But basically, I just summarized what the report is.
Okay. Any questions?
So, one of the individuals that probably fed you some of the questions sent me an email indicating she couldn't be here tonight. But there's some things in this email that I probably ought to ask. Why won't code enforcement take phone complaints? And it seems that they need to be able to maintain a verifiable record. So I guess they want complaints done in writing. Is that pretty much what you understand?
We have a link on the county website. If you go to the county website and there's a Google search bar and you put code violation complaint, it'll take you right to the complaint form, and it does ask for your name, but you can do it anonymous. You don't have to leave your name. But yeah, that's how they have a record of it.
The other complaint was that, when you have an abandoned looking building, they often end up with individuals moving in, homeless people, and along with that, accumulated trash and unsafe conditions. So when code enforcement's going around looking at these unsafe buildings or these red tag buildings, how do they deal with the people who are moving in? And
there is no evidence of anyone living there. The manager said that it looked like maybe someone had tried to access the back building, but the doors are still locked on the main building. We also have, this is not uncommon throughout the county. It's more common in other areas of the county. If there is people living there, that is an issue that's taken up immediately. We have resources too that can help those people. We have a behavioral health van that we can call at any time that does outreach, has resources. I did also follow up with behavioral health to see if they could send the van there, but there wasn't anybody there.
All right.
I think a lot of these questions are probably best for Director Turner. It's her department and her staff, and I think she was CC'd on that email, so
maybe we can get her on another meeting and come back to this then for some of these other questions.
Or she could probably just respond via email too, if that's helpful.
Okay.
Okay. You can tell that I'm not used to doing this. I didn't know I was the guy.
So next item on the list, I believe,
Water
is the
resources?
water resources. Yes.
Presentation? Okay.
Hello everyone, it's Pawan Upadhyay. I'm the Lake County Water Resources Director. We are here today with our team member Chris Childers, and he's gonna be presenting on two of our projects, more so on the Coal Creek than the Kelseyville Fish Ladder, because the Kelseyville Fish Ladder has a lot of activities going on right now, so maybe we can come later, a couple of months down the line, and provide another update on that. So yeah, Chris would be taking over from here. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Well, we could make some announcements. Does anybody have any? Unless you're ready to go? Oh, okay. Just so, okay, well, self-serving. I will tell you that the farms in the Big Valley area, the Big Valley Small Farms Tour is Saturday from 10 until 3, and that's Peace and Plenty, the Ripe Choice Farm, Edenberry, Fox Valley, and Campo de Nico. And it's a great Saturday day date drive, family drive, very fun. Kelseyville is having their yard sale. Rick, isn't the yard sale on Saturday as well? Garage
I'm
sale,
not-
yard sale?
I'm not following that.
Yeah, community-wide yard sale, which is a lot of fun.
More information about that on Facebook.
Okay. There's definitely something there that I'm sure you can't live without, so please check into it. Do we need lights? Okay.
And do we need the camera? Oh, you got that already covered. Excellent.
There we go. Yep.
Wow.
Clearly have a drainage problem.
That's our property
Oh, yeah?
and road.
Growing rice?
Exactly. Water planting.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Childers from the Water Resources, or Lake County Watershed Protection District, Water Resources Department. Today I'm here to do a presentation on Coal Creek restoration. This picture here kind of tells a story, right? So what we see here is Farrow Lane on the right-hand side, and it's flooded. There's probably a couple feet of water there. And on the left here, there's houses and there's fields that are flooded. So this is a big issue in terms of hitch. The Clear Lake hitch they were listed in 2014 as threatened under the California Endangered Species Act. And they actually go in this area and they get stranded. Adults get stranded, juveniles get stranded. Not only that, there's a big time issues here for property owners flooding as well. So I'm here to present on this and bring light to what's going on. So here we have a map, and you can see Soda Bay Road. At the top of the red line there's Soda Bay Road. The state park is to the right of that red line. And then the green line there shows basically where Coal Creek used to flow naturally. The channel has been straightened, so you see the straight red line there. It's been straightened, and now there's extensive flooding, as you can see on the right-hand side of that red line, kind of like the dark area. That's all water, and that water stays there, as Nils had said, for up to 8 months, maybe more out of the year, depending on if it's a lot of rain, a high rain event year or not. The bottom right here kind of shows, the map of the lake and the exact location of this, the Coal Creek area that is in question. So we're going to do a little bit of background here. Coal Creek breaches the straightened channel during heavy rain events. And the straightened channel is right there, that yellow line. So you can see that's it. Sediment builds up in the channel, and it also builds up downstream, which causes localized flooding. This photo was taken by Karen Zimmer.
Can you, could you explain the background behind that straightening? It was an Army Corps of Engineers project, I believe. When was this done?
That's a great question. So I actually looked into, I contacted the Army Corps of Engineers and looked into it, and they do not have any records of anything that in their database that shows that they did this work.
So we don't know who did this?
That is correct.
Do we know when that was done?
There's no records that I can find from Army Corps of Engineers.
Supposedly 1950s, there's a sheep pasture, so some sort of reasoning irrigation, but it seems like a large amount of creeks in this valley were straightening.
Got it, thank you.
What the straightening does is it causes the water to flow much faster, and it ends up depositing sediment. So I think we're good with this slide. On to the next. So the problem here is localized flooding. This picture is also taken in the general area, but Clear Lake Hitch, adult and juvenile strandings is a major issue. There has been an increase in hitch rescues in culverts, fields, ditches, hayfields, just anywhere you could imagine these fish would go when the water is excessive and breaches the channel, they go there. Not only that, but property, livestock and crop loss. And then what this does is it increases turbidity and nutrients into the lake, so nutrient loading into the lake. On top of all these issues, it is great mosquito habitat. So there's the West Nile virus, which there has been fatalities in Lake County from that virus, and it is a public health priority. So this is some drone footage that was taken by Sam Houston, February 2025 this year, and you can see the channel there. It kind of in the middle, and on the far left bottom part that's the Clark Drive Bridge. So you can see the straightened channel there, and you can also see if you kind of follow the mountain there. That's where the creek used to flow. Here's another picture. Just moving on to the right a little bit. If you notice in this picture on the far right, you see the big circle, kind of looks like a pen or something like that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. A corral. On the left side here, you can see the corral. So this is an extensive area that floods. And Sam Houston did a lot of great drone footage for us on this project this year. So one of the major issues with this flooding, then we have to deal with hitch rescues. And so there's multiple agencies helping here. We have B.V.A.C and U.S. Fish and Wildlife. I think Robinson Rancheria was there as well on this one. But these are adult hitch rescues. So what happens first is the adults will come in these major flooding events, and as you can see, these rescues are going on the side of Clark Drive in ditches. You can see there's a mailbox, and on the left side there's actually a culvert down under that mailbox. These fish are swimming under culverts, basically under driveways. And so there's a need to rescue them and put them in a location where they can successfully spawn and not get stranded and not have their larval fish get stranded too. So the previous slide was adult hitch rescues. This slide it's talking about larval hitch rescues. So about a month or two after the adult hitch go in there and spawn, then we're dealing with larval rescues in ditches. So the picture on the left and in the middle, this is also along Clark Drive. And as you can see, we use dip nets and electro-fishing backpacks and various methods to perform these rescues. These rescues are done with the county and with the tribes. So we partner with Abimatel, Robinson, and B.V.A.C to make all these fish rescues happen. We have all the MOUs, all the scientific collection permits, and all that's needed. On the right here is larval fish. So that's a bucket full of larval, most likely hitch. We did not ID them, but they're most likely hitch because that's the only fish we saw in these ditches other than brown bullhead. So here's another slide that just shows localized flooding and kind of like property loss. So the picture here on the left is, it's a pen for livestock, but obviously livestock can't utilize this area. And then on the right here we have Coal Creek, which is downstream of the Clark Drive Bridge, And this is where a lot of the sediment is deposited, and it just floods it floods its banks, and the fish end up all over the place. So here's a pretty neat picture. This picture kind of it paints a story too. So in the background of this picture, you can see that's actually the Clark Drive Bridge, right there. Well, it's the only Clark Drive bridge on Coal Creek that I'm aware of right now. But on the right here, you can see those fences are a couple feet underwater. The left side is all hay fields, and not only the property owners, but the fish, you know, they're flooded, and there's something needs to be done about this. So what we're here to talk about is the Coal Creek Restoration Project. So this project is called the Clear Lake Hitch Habitat Improvement Planning and Design in Coal Creek, Big Valley Basin, Lake County, California, USA. So for the past more than 6 months, we've had the Coal Creek Advisory Collaborative meetings. So these are monthly meetings. And with these monthly meetings, we have property owners, we have tribal representatives, we have CDFW representatives, and anybody that is at State Park also, because they're doing restoration projects downstream, as well as one other restoration project downstream of Soda Bay Road. So we have these meetings. If there are any property owners listening or anybody that would like to get involved, please reach out to me. We'd be happy to get you involved in these meetings so we can all come to, you know, we can make this area better. So we have CDFW approval and support, Big Valley support, local property owner support. This is a priority hitch restoration area. And a grant has been submitted, and it's a planning grant. And what this planning grant entails is sediment removal in the current channel and stream bank stabilization. So here's our contact information. If anybody wants to contact us, feel free, please reach out. And on the right side, the picture there, you can see there's a hitch. There's one hitch in that ditch, and that's also along Clark Drive.
So when you're talking about bank restoration? No.
Stream bank.
What, steam bank stabilization, thank you.
Yeah.
What does that mean in layman's terms? What does it look like? I suppose it's to slow down the stream, right?
Yeah, so stabilization includes like, so when the gravel is removed from the channel bed and the channel would be deeper, so there might be instances where if there is a high flow event or high flow years, you might have the banks being washed away because there is no vegetation or like it is freshly dug out within a season before that. So there would be measure to stabilize that. So it's not like we are not washing all those sediments downstream.
But it will have to be a recurring thing.
So after a couple of years it will stabilize itself, but in the beginning phase, like when the sediment has been removed, it has to be stabilized.
And there's no plan to have the creek run its old bed?
You mean its original course?
Yeah.
I don't know whether that would be the part of the study, like
Okay.
the grant we submitted, that will analyze it, saying a couple of different scenarios. But because it's part of the private property now, like I don't know like how that will work out, but that
Got
would
it.
study the feasibility of that.
Got it. Thank you.
And for our property, it is flooding because it is going over the levee, and so it might stop raining if there's anything over 3 inches. When we get over 3 inches of rain during a rain event, then it the water will come up over the levee of that straight-end engineered section, and that's what fills up that area. Currently, we're not draining because there is no outlet. There's a 12-inch pipe that's just clogged.
Right.
So that's part of the engineering too that'll have to happen is they're talking about maybe an arch culvert, but you know, just some sort of way for us to drain the water out after a water event. Because it's been a long time since we've had a big storm, and that water's been there since November. So that'll be part of the engineering planning.
All right.
So will the improvements, let's say you get the grant and you make these improvements, is there going to be a recurring effort every year to do something to help mitigate this issue? Because this is going to continue to happen, right? No matter what things you do to try to stabilize it as best you can, there's still things maintenance-wise that you need to do, right? And
Yes.
Is
So-
that being factored into your planning?
Yes, so right now, the grant which has been submitted is a planning grant. So nothing happens on the ground like digging or something. That would be part of another grant once this study is done. Because now how the regulations is, we need to make sure it's not affecting H, it's not affecting other issues. But you are right in that like the situation we are in right now is because the channel has not been maintained in the past many years. But if you remember, like what Chris said in the beginning, like we did dig a little bit deeper into saying who created that channel. So it was not the Army Corps, so it's most likely the local community members. So it's part of their responsibility to, in a sense, to keep maintenance up to date. So maybe in the older time when they created it, they maintained it for a while, but when the property was sold or like it changed hands, so it just fell out of the maintenance.
Right.
Because most of the areas which county maintains has its own special assessment. So even though it looks like the levy out there, but it's officially you can't call that thing as levy because it's not. I mean, it's not something which is maintained by somebody.
It's not engineered and yeah.
Yeah.
Got it. Chris, is this presentation posted on a public URL somewhere?
It is not posted publicly right now. I just put it together this week, but with the approval of the director,
Yeah.
I think we can, yeah.
Thank you.
Is this also in a national wetlands designated area? Do you know?
I looked at the FEMA flood map, and it is in a flood zone, but I don't know if it is
If it's in a wetlands?
Correct.
Because that may add another layer of things that need to be considered, I think. It's amazing what properties are considered wetlands, and some of us have never seen anything that would indicate it to be wetlands, but clearly this has been going on for a lot of years, this kind of thing, and it would be nice to see something done that would be a little bit more permanent, but I really believe this is going to be an annual maintenance thing where, I don't know, maybe rally the community and say, bring a shovel, we're going to go down the drain line and clear up before the rains hit. I don't know. There's a question in the back?
Yeah, when we bought our property in 2021, and the realtor swore up and down, no, it doesn't flood here. You only need flood insurance because this whole kind of area of
Right.
Kelseyville is in that same zone. So we were surprised as
Yeah.
far as like it being a wetland.
But it was already on the map, it was already, you had to take, I don't know if you had a mortgage or not, but did you have to take
How the map is now is from a couple of years ago, so that's
so they
since we've
updated
been
it?
here.
They updated the, okay.
And so one idea from Fish and Wildlife, at least, as far as long-term planning, they would like to see some sediment mitigation as far as like where is the sediment coming from? Can we redirect the creek in kind of more curves for sediment deposits naturally, and then kind of restoring a little bit of that natural area. And the property owners are very happy to set aside different restoration areas for any solving
Right.
solving this issue. So, yeah. Well, I think currently it'll be how to solve the issue right now, short term, and then longer term planning as far as how can this be maintained.
Got it. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or thoughts on this issue? I mean, we've been saying in every LAPAC meeting and all that is, we just need the water to run. We need it dredged. No one's cleaned up all the debris and all that for years. Then the question becomes, whose responsibility is it? Is this a county, a city, or the individual's responsibility? And if we leave it up to the individual, you'll always have this problem because some will be better stewards of it than others. So anyway, yeah, it definitely needs to happen. It's interesting our place is between the lake and Soda Bay Road, and it's across Soda Bay Road that floods. Why wouldn't our place flood? I mean, I don't know why our place doesn't flood. But on the other side of the road, the vineyards, the people have the road all the way, but we're between the lake and the...
Yeah, you got the shoreline. I mean, you got some...
Oh, so maybe
there,
that must be it then.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm happy about it.
Well, thanks guys for being here tonight. So we will see you guys in a couple of months to talk about the fish ladder project.
Yes.
All right.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Or elevator. Maybe we should get them an elevator. All right. So no other questions? We have one other agenda item, and that is to talk about the senior center renovation.
We got 2 more agenda items.
We do? No.
Here, use this so you can see what you got.
Yes.
I have public service staff update on the
K-
Kelseyville
KBA
Senior
after
Center.
this. After this, it's going to be the KBA update.
Oh,
Yeah.
this was added. I have number 8 adjourn.
Yeah, I'm going to make that a little clearer for the next one.
Okay, so what I have here, my name is Joe Cooper. I'm the Capital Projects Manager for the Public Services Department, Lake County Public Services. We are well into the development of the construction set of drawings, so I would say 98% complete with our construction set of drawings for the renovation of this building here. What I brought is just a truncated version with really the details. So ultimately, the cover sheet describes the project, contractor responsibilities, details about what it is, the area maps, things like that. Gives you all of the information. We'll see how my easel holds up with turning the pages. I'm happy to lay this out on the table afterwards, so you can all come up and see the project as it's much easier to look at the plans when they're laying down on the table. The first sheet beyond the cover sheet is just some parking lot and civil details. There's a slight change in the curb and drainage. Oh, I'll take care of it. I'm going to change the page in just a second. I appreciate your consideration, but so there will be just a little bit in civil and design for the storm drain that's out on 3rd Street here. We'll upgrade that. And then as far as the parking goes, there'll be some slight upgrades, a few more handicap spaces directly in the front access. Right, currently the handicap spaces are on the street, and we'll bring some into the parking lot here on the side. I could make this tear sheets almost, and it would be easier. The next sheets that I have here are the interior redesign. We will be through, it's been about 6 rounds of stakeholder input. The architect and the board have gone through about 3 development designs for the layout of the interior of the building, plus there's been about 3 other meetings in regards to the exterior aesthetic of the building. And so at this point, what we've come up here with, you'll see it moves the kitchen. And what that, by moving the kitchen over to this northwest corner, will open up this area here. So we'll have a much larger meeting hall area, and then all of the facilities will be moved more towards the west. And additionally, the darkened line that you can see is an extension of the structure. So it does add, I think it's about 400 square feet, roughly 400 square feet of space to this building here. So we'll push that back wall out a little bit, and then an entry over here. There'll be an entry on this side, and we'll maintain the entry that's at 3rd Street as well. This is just a roof plan. It's really boring. Come on. These are the architect elevations, and then on the next 2 sheets I also have renderings based off of this. So ultimately our 3rd Street frontage is this upper right hand item here. So there'll be some redesign there. The significant change really comes to this south facing side. There'll be a change. There's a hip roof. There'll be a little bit of an improved entrance over there with an awning and easier access in and also accessible parking there in that location. And then the backside is aesthetically relatively unchanged. Again, I'll lay these out on the table so you can look at it closer if you want to. This is the proposed and really the final design. There is a few details. Like I said, we're at 99%, 98% complete. So the specification documents we're wrapping up. Some of the things in this example, it shows it's a metal roof with a copper colored metal. That color is not the end of the decision. There are options. It could be green, but I think everybody that has had input so far has liked this copper, and it'll be a bit more red than what's in the rendering here. But you can see this entrance that will be just to the southeast or southwest corner gets widened. It also gets an awning there, and then we'll have parking right in front of that with accessible ramps and make it a much more convenient, and not that 3rd Street is highly trafficked, but off of the traffic way access to the entrance. And then with the kitchen removed, this wall will become sort of a main thoroughfare, main entry, and there'll be storage along that back wall. We're proposing 3-foot deep cabinets, floor to ceiling, so that all the storage can go in that wall, in that section. A couple of windows, a small computer access area, public use access for computers. And then, but for the most part, the landscaping is, park landscaping that doesn't exist. So some of those things are embellishments that were put in by the architect. But a couple of the key features are this increased pitched roof, gable end roof here, and then the small elevated tower to modernize the building. And with the final sheet, you can see a much better vision of what the Third Street approach will look like. In the comments, this is the, I think it was about 6 rounds to get to this compromise here. The original architect's rendering had a flat-faced building with a towering pedestal there, elevated, which was a beautiful design, but I think community-wise, it didn't fit. And so I went and took pictures of all the buildings from every location and then looking down the street here to give him a perspective as to what really the neighboring buildings and community look like, in an effort to continue to keep it a modernized and updated look rather than bringing it back into an older restoration. This and with the board, the senior center board's comments, this is the final consideration here. So it gives us a nice frontage, nice signage, well identified as the senior center building, and a community center is really what they were hoping for in the design phase of it. So
Joe, is the tower functional? How does it?
At this
is it utilized?
particular point, there is no windows or anything other than the signage and the elevated aesthetic. It is there.
Inside, it's just a vacuum, or?
Yeah, at this point, yeah, that is really what it was. Originally, it had some windows, had some lights in it, was providing daylight for vestibule and things like that. But the size, the structure, the cost, those things all played into the modifications that were made.
What do you have for heating and cooling?
I can go into the details of the specifications. It'll all be mini split systems.
That
Yeah,
seems a lot.
it will all be mini split
That's
systems.
the way to go, I think.
Yeah, the VFR systems with the high efficiency, they're becoming pretty good and really flexible as to the spaces that you can cool. And for future proofing the building, if you put a wall somewhere, you can move the cassettes and be able to still control the climate in those individual spaces. One other modification that's not necessarily in this plan set is the change to the rear door of the adjacent trailer. We're actually taking it from the center right, and we'll just move it over to the right side a little bit. That allows us to bring this entire wall back instead of having to create a keyway for that one particular access. It's a buildings and grounds project. It's relatively no cost to us other than labor. The materials we'll reuse everything to do that, but just push it to the far wall. So with that, the plan set is almost complete. Middle of next month, we will be at 100%. We will have our specifications complete. We will be ready to have the project out for bid proposal. That process, by the time we get the project out for bid proposal and get it ready to start construction, would be 8 to 10 weeks. So we're probably looking at somewhere between 12 to 14 weeks to start construction on this project. We really would like to get to a point where we have any of the exterior components completed before, say, end of October. We typically consider October a construction month, even though middle of October, we'll see a little bit of rain, but it usually gets clear again until December. So we'd like to get the roof and the exterior components taken care of before winter, and then just do the interior. The total build out on this project, I think they said, I can't remember exactly what the total working days is on it. I'd have to go back and look, but somewhere around 4 months to complete the project. So the major components of the project are all interior anyway. It's plumbing changes and the mechanicals, the electrical equipment changes.
And all in the cost?
The budget that we have approved for this is 2.2 million. That does include the design as well.
You spoke about solar panels earlier.
Yeah, this project started quite a while ago, and so it doesn't have any solar improvements to this project. This project started and then was paused because there was questions whether the funding was coming through, and then when the funding became available again, there was a question, can you still do it for that amount? And so we can, but it didn't include any. Now, that being said, that doesn't mean that another program won't come through and then solar, which would be really nice. And again, this comes once we get through the bid process. If we can use this standing seam metal roof, some of that comes into cost efficiencies, but the inclusion of solar in the standing seam metal roof is relatively low cost. There's no added infrastructure. We can clamp right to the seams of that. The major cost and considerations here are battery backup. If you're trying to use battery backup and batteries on the systems, and then upgrading the electrical panels to be solar ready so that we can service back into that. Those are considerations that just have not been part of this project, but could easily be another project. And if we use the standing, costs allow. We'll see when we get the budgets back from the contractor submission. We'll use that metal roof as an add alternative item that allows us to. They'll give us their best costs, and if they choose the metal roof, what would be the cost increase? And my hope is that the metal roof comes in within budget, and that we can move forward with that. And be able to be in a situation where the infrastructure would, because the structure itself will hold the solar panels no problem. So relatively cost-effective, simple installation, and to service this whole building wouldn't take a major funding. It would be something that we could start pretty simply. So, but to answer your question, no, it hasn't been considered on this project. I think every place is a great place, right? Every place is a great place for solar. Anytime you, particularly with the discussion that we had about PG&E and the co-op, the Sonoma Energy Co-op, things like that.
What is the plan with the lunches?
Yeah, now that is not I just work on the construction, so my coordination and communication with that, we will absolutely make sure that we have an alternative facility lined up. I don't know the answer to that, but I'm sure I can find out. Initially, once I know what the construction timeline will be, that's when we would be able to determine what.
Helen, do you have?
Well, I was going to let them know that Terry Antel would be the.
I can bring it to you.
Yeah.
So Terry Antel is the new board supervisor of the senior center, and she, I know, is looking into a facility that she does not want to lose our lunch activity. She's really heartfelt and passionate about that. She doesn't want that getting away, so she's going to make that happen. We've made some suggestions that maybe the Methodist Church down the street, they're very interested in having some activity in their facility, and I've connected them, but I've not heard anything beyond that. But it's not going away. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Joe?
Yeah.
Margot.
Thank you, Joe. This is a follow-up question to Rick's question about heating and cooling. Can you comment on what was the thought process on heat pumps, whether that would be viable?
Yeah, I would have to actually go in, get the mechanical set of plans to go into any details about it. I don't know the specifications of it. Really, energy efficiency and cost efficiency were the two determining factors that drove the decision. As I said, we're about 98%. Our spec docs are still being completed. We have about 4 more weeks until they'll be finished, and that'll have a full detail on the actual recommended specification for those units. I'd be happy to share that with you. Yeah, of course.
Okay, I think we're.
Nope, we got one more item.
Thank you, Joe.
I know, but I mean, thank you, Joe.
And yeah, so now KBA.
KBA. Helen
Finch. Guess I'm
Helen
turning.
Finch, ladies and gentlemen.
We all have them up here.
Yeah,
Gus.
we have them. Thank you.
This bit of paperwork that is being shared is something that Rick White has put together. It is reflective of our effort to copy, if you will, the Cobb resilience plan that I know if you've been to these meetings in the last few months, you would be familiar with. We were very impressed with the amount of data that they had collected and the the opportunity that it provided for anyone who looked at it to make determinations without doing a lot of research on their own. We are looking into some funding through the Community Development Services. I'm afraid Jeff Lucas had to leave. He was going to tell you a little bit more about that. But we are looking into some grant funding to provide consultation, yes, for us to gather that sort of information here around Kelseyville in the area so that we could put something like that together ourselves. One of the projects that we would like to incorporate with that, we realize that it's kind of getting ahead of the game, but we realize that also that the conversation has to happen. Mark Lips will appreciate that. We are wanting to take advantage of a program that PG&E, I believe, is behind, that is a microgrid incentive program. And we think that if we could bring something like that to Kelseyville, it would do wonders for new businesses. That just would be such a great foundational part that we could provide that would really, keep us in the running for new places to come and do business. Weston, do you want to share anything about this, or does anyone have any questions? Did you get to flip through this? It's kind of interesting just to see the overview of what we really have going for us and look at some of it.
So Elizabeth Larson, Rick White, myself, and Jeff Lucas were on a phone call yesterday, and Elizabeth can explain more too. We kind of ended up, we're kind of two things moving in the same direction, and I think speaking the same language in terms of the PG&E, what they're offering. There was, it's essentially up to $14 million that they're offering for rural microgrid, technology or whatever. It is a long-term process, and it is, which I think anything that is this important is long, right? I think the application process, getting technical writing, the good things for me that I took out of the conversation yesterday, one is Kelseyville checks a lot of the boxes for this grant. Being rural, our population, a low density population, income levels, all of those things. So it checks a lot of boxes in terms of us scoring well. The other parts, they provide, I think it was $25,000 for the technical, which is actually getting somebody who knows what they're doing to put the plan together, which for me is, I don't know anything about anything. When I kind of started this conversation like a year ago, it was really to be able to try and be able to get some funding, to be able to hire somebody to get us some answers, to be able to go, is this something that is feasible and realistic for us or not? And so going through the process and the application process, all of that, there are funds available to be able to help move through the application process. It was a little disconcerting at the beginning of the conversation because the person that we met with was like, this isn't going to lower anybody's bills. Putting in a microgrid is not going to lower anybody's bills. And it took a couple moments for me to kind of digest that. And what it is, and there's, I can't remember what the word was.
It's basically a backup system for the power shutoff program. So when they do a power shutoff, it automatically kicks in to keep whatever's connected up to it, the critical buildings, the critical businesses and things, operating while we're in a power shutoff condition.
But you focused on resilience.
Yes.
So you have to have a third party, and I can't remember what that word is. So essentially, like Sonoma Power, what they do is they buy power and then rent the infrastructure from PG&E and then sell it back. It is that same kind of similar model. What was important to me was going down this road. PG&E does not own what we do. That is our microgrid. So, I mean, things that I think of, is if Sonoma Power comes into Lake County, we can partner with them as the manager, potentially, that would buy power from our microgrid and then sell it back. So because PG&E doesn't own the infrastructure, it's there for resiliency. And I'm like, well, what happens to the power when there's no power shutoff? It just sits there. It doesn't do anything. So you need that third party that manages the power and sells it back. And there was a term for it, and I can't remember what she called
PPA.
it. Huh?
PPA. It's a third party.
It was like I don't know, adjudicator, but that's not it. It was something. Aggregator. That's it. An aggregator. So that's, as we talk about this, I mean, there are strategies. I mean, ultimately, for me, it's having the conversation. We're working on the application. At the end of the day, this is a long-term project. Something that necessarily won't impact anybody here, but it will impact our kids, it will impact our grandkids and their kids, and it will be a part of how Kelseyville continues to thrive for generations. So it's a long-term. The other thing, just because my mind works that way, which is, I mean, we develop the model. If Lakeport, Lucerne, Nice, if they take that model and now, they partner with Sonoma Power or with that third party, now we're creating, each of our communities, creating a resilient community, a power resilient community, and impacting our rates. So,
I'm sorry, Rick. Are there existing examples of this in the region or in Northern California?
yeah, I mean, there are either solar farms or, I think it's Jerusalem Grade, and this is a wind farm, but there's a company out there right now, and I don't fully understand exactly what but they're putting in something to the tune of like 500 turbines.
And they are a standalone microgrid that can produce energy and sell it.
I believe Robinson Rancheria, I think they're putting in a microgrid. And then, if you look, kind of across the country, there are other communities that are utilizing this technology. And of anything for us, what we have an abundance of is space and sun. And, for us to utilize the resources that we have. And the woman that we talked with yesterday, she made the point too, because we are a high fire risk area, that also gets us points. So the opportunity with it is, I think, potentially really good. Elizabeth, do you have anything you want?
As I understand it, the Presbyterian Church was going to take the lead on application process. Is that correct, Elizabeth?
Elizabeth Larson, speaking to you in my position as clerk of the session of Kelseyville Presbyterian Church. I'm going to talk to my session on Tuesday to see if they will give me the go-ahead to formally lead this process.
Okay.
We put the application in to have the consultation call that you had yesterday, and the reason for that is because we are in the midst of upgrading our 153-year-old campus with solar. We are a resilience hub, and we are in partnership with the American Red Cross to do that. So when we saw the announcement come out, there were just 3 awards made in Lake County from microgrids within the last month. But remember, on the call yesterday, she said, I can't tell you where they are because they're still protected by non-disclosure agreements. Yeah. So we'll probably know in the next few months where those are at. So my goal was to, and I talked to Jeff Lucas this afternoon. Mm-hmm. When we first got the announcement about this, the idea I had was, well, how could we plug in with what we have? And there's the fire department 300 feet away, there's Main Street, there's this building down which we knew wasn't going to have solar on it. So is there a way to connect just down a couple corridors in the case of emergency? So the next thing, as she told us yesterday, there's the application process that Weston mentioned is for the technical assistance. And I believe that that deadline is July 17th. So I need to start this rolling pretty quickly to know if we can put that in. And then I don't think it obligates us to anything, but getting professionals in to tell us what we would need to do is pretty important. And yes, it's supposed to, this alone is based on resilience. The goal is to get 24 hours of backup energy. And if you can build an additional, for every 6 hours you build into it, you get additional grant incentives to do it. And yes, you need a community choice aggregator. If you wanted to pursue the type of energy, long-term energy strategy, you would need a community choice aggregator like Sonoma Power. But this is all coming together at a really good time because if Sonoma Power does come in, this opens up the opportunity, and we would then have the infrastructure in place in downtown Kelseyville. Right. So that's what I'm working on now. I will go ahead and put in the grant application with Jeff's help. I told him I need his grant writing skill to do this if possible. And then, but I don't think the church wants to own it. I think what probably down the line, the next discussion that needs to be is maybe a nonprofit needs to be created simply to hold
the system.
Maybe some kind of a consortium with the KBA and other, community leaders to pull together and
And I don't think it needs to be like a community services district. I think she didn't say that yesterday.
Right.
She just said it needs to be a nonprofit entity. So,
yeah.
so we will move forward. I will move forward on the exploration of it.
No, we're excited about that.
So who is the grant with?
PG&E.
It is a PG.
Yep.
Okay, and who's gonna be the applicant?
I will be for Kelseyville Presbyterian.
Okay, because I've had some other conversations, Here, I'll just sit. I've had some other conversations around this, because I know we've been talking about that here for a long time. The Middletown Rancheria is probably one of the ones that they're not disclosing, that I know, this organization is called Site Logic, and I can connect you with them if you just want to have another conversation. I've got her contact. You know them?
I'm familiar with them. I have.
Yeah, so they've been doing a lot of work in the county and around other counties doing the microgrids. So it might be a good person I can connect you with. And of course, I'm always happy to help in any way that I can. Is there any drawbacks to, rather than having a nonprofit own, have it be a community service district?
I think the complication of creating a CSD would probably be pretty overwhelming. They're doing it in Upper Lake right now, and it's taking a long time.
Yeah. What about, I guess we can talk about some of the other.
Yeah, I would just say, like, you get one question answered, and then there's 10 more. I can think like, all right, cool, we could have like co-op, and then it's, but really at the end of the day, I think it's kind of starting at the beginning, and let's get the application in and figure that out, and then it may be, maybe it's a subcommittee with KBA and the B.V.A.C. in terms of putting some, smart people at a table and then starting to have that conversation. Okay, how do we want this to represent the community, and what's the structure and all of that? But I think right now, getting the application and kind of starting that process, and then allowing the conversations to take place.
That's really exciting. Good job.
And this is a big component to the economic development strategy that we're trying to put together here. We use the Cobb area strategy as kind of the foundation for getting something, outlined. But obviously we're a little different than Cobb Mountain, and so we need to kind of think about what are the things that are going to be important to us in the future. And this is why we're bringing this up, because we want community input, not just our business side of the task. We want to know what does the community want, and how, is there something else that we're missing here, so that we can get it on there and start talking about it and start developing this plan. Because we're probably looking at 2 to 3 years before this is realized, and we'd like to have kind of what Cobb's got at the end of the day. So. Anyway, we could probably post this on the county's site for the Big Valley Advisory Council, and just have it there so the community can look at it, and then maybe on the next meeting offer some other ideas that we might want to consider.
Tom Lasik, I have a question on this. Just so I understand that it's mostly a resiliency model, and the idea of having a community choice CCA involved allows you to sell power when we're not in a PSPS situation. I've seen about there's several different ways that can go. Is part of that to, let's say we have something like a Sonoma Clean Power that's in the equation. The first question is, who would be on the microgrid? And would that community be able to enjoy its own power before selling excess to the CCA? Because in that case, you would save money. Alternatively, if you have to give it all to Sonoma Clean Power at 5, 6 cents a watt, and they sell it back to you at 50 cents, it's your own power. You see what I'm saying? So, do you know how that's supposed to work?
No, and I think that's probably why you need to have some engineers involved with all of that, and they're going to be asking, what do you want? Where do you want to start out with?
Yeah, well, it's not an
Who's going to
engineering
get
question. It's a
who's going to
financial
get the
question.
benefit? And I assume, we're probably the downtown area, maybe the schools, maybe other health and safety locations might benefit from it initially, but I think down the road we want to think about, we need to be able to make it expand so that the whole community eventually could be sharing the benefits of having something like
Yeah.
this.
Thank you. I do believe
Yeah.
that who's going to be on it would probably be an engineering
Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
But how the financial transaction is performed is not an engineering question. It's more of a financial model.
Yeah.
You would have to have a contractual relationship. So I'm just curious to see how that would shake out to benefit Kelseyville to the maximum extent possible.
Right.
Because there's one way to do it where you get all the solar you generate, you get to keep. That drops your bill down tremendously.
Yeah.
The other way, not so much.
Well,
So
what PG&E's proposing is not giving us any benefit.
Right. So
It's just basically there as a safety net to keep things
Yeah.
powered up.
Yeah, you get zero, you
Right.
get a little bit, or you get a lot.
Yeah.
So that's my question.
But I think having that infrastructure is good because it gives us a starting place so we can, grow it and maybe have a situation where more people benefit from it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the microgrid.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea. It's all devil in the details.
And
Thank you.
truthfully, I'd like to know what other communities are doing. I'm sure there's some that are ahead of us.
There are a lot
on
of them
this.
out there that do it
And we
right
just
now.
need to know what did you learn when you went through this? What would you have done differently? We need to ask those kind of questions.
Well, and I don't think that we leave that up to consultants. I think that, we talk to people like Mark who might be familiar, or Jessica, I think you mentioned some others who were kind of on this path, and, let's reach out and have a conversation with them. And to your point, Tom, this was a perfect question that, we want to hear from you. That's the kind of thing that we would need support on. It's.
But I think what
This
he's-
whole thing's kind of a creative process, and so the more bodies, whatever suggestions that you might be willing to share are going to, come into, we're gonna consider them all. That's the whole reason for having this conversation tonight with you all.
Well, to Tom's point, and I'm in that camp, by the way, is to benefit the greater good. You're still tied to the grid. You're just getting a credit with the grid for whatever the community is considered, of Kelsey, by having this microgrid. It just seems like that would be the greater good. If you try to create this microgrid where you're just benefiting Main Street and all of that, you're going to run into costs that people are going to complain about and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that's a business decision and an engineering decision to decide who's in and who's out. But the financial question, if you think about it, if I put solar panels on my home, I benefit from all that electricity before there's a question of transfer of money between me and the provider. And that's the optimum situation. So to the extent that this plan can, and the people of Kelseyville or whoever's in the microgrid can enjoy that, I think that would be the best.
And and it can go beyond your power shutoff stuff.
Yeah. It seems to be
in today's world, what's happening with these microgrids is they're also providing relief because we're all on time of use now. So it's providing you relief from 4 to 9 when the energy is the most expensive. And so if your microgrid can kick in and help the greater good with lower costs during those peak hours.
There are several different models out there.
Yeah.
If you're just using it for PSPS, that's a tremendous waste of resources.
It
'cause
seems
it's
like
only-
antiquated.
Yeah, it would turn on only a few days a year, right? If you have it providing more value, then you have not only your resiliency, but you also have the other things. So I just hope that you guys think through that.
I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Well, we are getting to the witching hour here.
Margot?
Do we have any other? Oh, Mark.
Thanks, Mark. Just a few questions. So first of all, terrific. This is exciting news, energy independence. Hooray. So if the microgrid is going to be owned by an entity in this area, that means there's going to be maintenance costs, correct? So that's something that we'd have to factor in. Also, factoring in, you might need to be replaced in 10 to 15, 20 years, so just big picture costs. My other question would be, is there any thought right now on where this microgrid would go and how much acreage it would occupy? Okay, just curious. Another thought is, think of, or please consider, big umbrella, big tent. Why not expand it to Big Valley? And not just the Kelseyville Business Association, just a thought. Because as you grow, I mean, you have Finley, you have people who are outside of the Kelseyville area who live out in the country. We would like to be part of it too. So please consider that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Typically on these, there are 25-year, 30-year warranties, and you can get maintenance agreements that will protect you, take care of truck rolls and boots on the ground and stuff like that. So maintenance can be pretty simple, low maintenance, as a matter of fact. So, any other questions? And then also you have plug and play. So Margo, you can, you know, whatever you put in, if you do it right, you can expand and keep expanding and building out. So, all right, any questions on this end? Any other questions there? Is this the longest meeting to date? Okay, well, there we go. I know. Well, don't have me run a meeting. Jeez.
Fine, we'll take that from you.
Yeah, will you take that note, please? Okay, thank you all. We are, wait, do we have something else? We're adjourned, right?
We're done.
7:45, meeting adjourned.
Meeting adjourned.
Can I have my